Hello, everyone. How are we all doing today? By the way, thank you for the lovely introduction. I couldn't hear you. How are you all doing today? You know what? Let's get up. I want you to meet the person next to you. We've been sitting for a while. Why don't we go in for a handshake or a fist bump? I saw some handshakes land into fist bumps out there. Was it awkward? Let's talk about it, but first, please sit down. So, so what? So, what if it was awkward? That's life, isn't it? Everything doesn't go the way we plan it. Isn't that what happens with business and careers? Now, how many of you can be seated, but just raise your hand, have had some formal education post school? So, did your bachelor's or your master's and even maybe PhDs? Now, that's a lot of us. Now, more often than not, if you studied medicine, you would have been taught most probably by a doctor. And those that went to engineering school got taught by engineers. And the same applies to architects. But what about people like me who went to business school? Were you taught by entrepreneurs? Were you taught by business owners? Probably not. And that's why I'm here. After having 15 years of experience launching businesses, having launched over 25 plus businesses from scratch, and having achieved successes, it came with a lot of hardships, challenges, and failures. And I'm here to share something with you that I've understood to be the key to success of a successful business, right? The 4 foundational pillars of running a business. So a lot of you are motivated today. We have amazing energy in the room, and I'm sure some of you want to know, what do I do next? I am motivated. I want to take the next step. Where do I go? Pay attention. There are 4 foundational pillars of running a successful business: purpose, people, product, and process. I want to talk about the first pillar, purpose. So, what is the purpose of running a business? Is it making money? You wish. Purpose is the reason why you wake up and do what you do. Purpose is why you put in the effort. Purpose is your North Star that guides you. Purpose is the motivation that keeps you going in times of challenges and hardships. But what happens to our purpose as soon as the business starts scaling? Are we not asked to generate profits? Are we not asked to get more customers, meet shareholder objectives, investment objectives? What happens to our purpose? And what should our purpose be? The only reason to start any business and be an entrepreneur is to solve a problem. Your problem solving is the purpose. You need to remove a pain point from the society. You need to fulfill needs and or desires. That is problem solving. And what happens with businesses with time? Do problems remain the same? No, they evolve. Do needs remain the same? No. So what has to happen? You have to pivot. But you stay true to your purpose, which is to solve a problem. Just an evolved problem, a problem 2.0 with a solution 2.0. And then when you have a problem 3.0, you come up with a solution 3.0. And that is the power of pivoting. Let me give you an example from my life. Back in and around 2018, I was sitting at one of the businesses and interacting a lot with entrepreneurs. And they would come in with their business cards, primarily having a mobile number on it without any landline or real address. And I think it's happening still, right? A lot of entrepreneurs are virtual, they don't have physical offices, they don't have receptionists to answer their calls. And I would sit and wonder, what happens when this person is sleeping and can't access their mobile phone? What do they do when they're in the shower? Are they losing any business? And can startups afford to lose a single sale? Can they afford not to answer a call? What's the solution? Well, we have had a solution for centuries. Go get an office, have a reception in there. But guess what? Has anyone checked out the rents in the city? And do you really want to pay an additional salary for a receptionist? That's when I came up with the idea of launching a call center targeted to entrepreneurs and startups here in the city. I started offering a dedicated landline number to these entrepreneurs where their phones would be answered 24/7 at a mere price point of 100 dirhams per month. Now, all of a sudden, their calls were being answered day and night, messages were being taken, calls were being forwarded, whatever the business needed, right? Amazing, great, everyone's happy, problem solved. But guess what? Those businesses scaled, those businesses grew, and the problem evolved. They now wanted their business operations to be running 24/7. They wanted their administrative tasks to happen 24/7. So I pivoted. I launched a business processing outsourcing unit, a BPO, whereby we could have both inbound and outbound customer facing and back end services being offered 24/7, again at an affordable rate that can be catered to entrepreneurs. The problem was still the same, right? My purpose was to solve a problem of facility or the price of facility and price of talent or lack of talent. The problem was still the same. The solution had to pivot through an adapted business model. So be mindful and stay true to your purpose. And make sure that when you launch a business, remember, do it with purpose. And let that purpose be to solve a problem. I want to deep dive now into the second foundation of running a successful business: people. We've all been told many a times how important it is to build the right team when we launch something. Some of you are entrepreneurs, some of you are successful business people, and some of you are still considering what to do next. But I'm sure all of you understand the value of having the right team. And we've been told time and time again that you have to have your mission and vision aligned, and you have to have loyalty, and you have to take into consideration the experience and the skill sets when putting the right team together. And do not discount any of that. That's all valuable. Where do you start? Anyone over here wants to give it a go? Where do you start when you want to build a team? Raise your hand. There you go. Amazing. Right? You have to start building a team from yourself. You have to know yourself. Me. What are my strengths? What are my skills? What are my weaknesses? What is my personality? And then match it against the needs of the company. What you're doing is identifying those gaps. Because once you identify those gaps, you can really start building. Also, when you're trying to understand yourself or anyone else, it's not important for you to take into consideration what you're good at. What's more important is what you're good at and what do you want to do. So, for example, if I've had years of finance experience, I do not consider myself to be skilled anymore or filling the gap of bookkeeping. I would still hire someone as an accountant in that case because I believe I have a better value to add elsewhere, just because I'm simply not interested. At the same time, there are some important functions you need to take into consideration when launching your business. There's leadership, there's strategy, there's coordination, there's process engineering, there's marketing, business development, finance, customer relations, and these are some of the generic ones which you could apply to any and all businesses. Also, you could have businesses where some of these functions can be merged within one department. You can have one person fulfilling many of these roles. Usually, in a one-person company, they're probably trying to do it all. And that's what it is. But you have to have all these requirements that any business will have to be filled. Start with yourself, understand what you're bringing to the table, understand the business requirements, fill in those gaps through the first hiring. If after the first hiring there's a gap remaining, that's what you should be focusing on. That is how you put the right team together. Let me give you an example. When me and my business partners at Creative Zone were deciding to step away from managing the business and we didn't want to be actively involved in it, one of the first things we did is did a detailed analysis on ourselves and our core team, senior directors, managers, to understand what would be the gap that would be left behind. And what we ended up with was we would have lacked marketing, we would have lacked a little bit of face to the company, personal branding, and had we not done this exercise, we would have most probably gone and hired someone from the industry with a little bit of a managerial experience, because that's where you head towards, that's your safety net. But because we had that knowledge, we were able to onboard someone who didn't exist from the industry, but definitely had leadership qualities, had public speaking capabilities, had business development capabilities, and was able to scale our business 10x. Now, to talk about the third foundational pillar, product. Many of you think it's just important to have a product or a service. Well, it is important, but it's not the key to success. The key to success is to stand out. And how do you truly stand out? I mean, am I Thomas Edison? Am I going to invent something? I mean, if I could, great, that's a definite standout. But what about the rest of us who are not really inventing something? There is a way to stand out, and that way to stand out comes from product differentiation. Now, to be different, you could do it by simply being better, faster, or just cheaper than what's out there. Remember, better, faster, and/or cheaper. Take it into consideration that once you have your offering out there in the market, what is the audience telling you? What is their feedback? And ask yourself the same question again if you want to validate if your product is still relevant. Are you still solving a real problem? Are you still adding a real value? Because if you're not, you need to go back to the drawing board and see how are you going to differentiate? How are you going to bring that value? I'll give you an example. When we started operating the first public-private partnership free zone in the UAE, the corporate services industry and the government services and the free zone industry were still living in the dinosaur era. You would have your trade licenses printed out with a wet signature from someone very important, sometimes even laminated and framed, and there was no digitization. You would have to go in person to the offices, and I'm only talking about probably 2017, so it's not a long time ago. And when we got that gig, we said we are going to bring digitization to this. We are going to make it a seamless process. So we created a tech product called Economic Zone Management Solutions, which allowed for digital ID verification. All of a sudden, trade licenses started getting issued on PDFs, verifications could happen through QR codes, and you didn't need a stamp or a signature to verify something. But with time, with this product being out there in the market and us operating an additional free zone and then the third free zone, we started getting feedback from our clients, the end users, from the free zones, and from the market in general. And by then, we had probably spent about $25 million on this product. And it had been 2 years in. Based on the feedback, we scrapped the product. We built it from scratch because that's what our audience was telling us. That's what the market was giving us as a feedback, that you need to make these changes. And we gave them those changes. Now, this product has been out there in the market for the past 4 years, and we have spent in probably close to around $30 million on it. And guess what? Based on the feedback that we have been collecting, we have decided to scrap it. We have already started building a new product because the tech stack that existed back then can't support what the audience wants now. The government wants things to be on blockchain. We want AI integration. We want ML integration. And in order to do that, we would need the newer tech stack and the language. But if we don't adapt to the feedback that our clients are giving us, we will become irrelevant. Finally, I want to talk about process, the fourth foundational pillar. We have all heard how important it is to be customer-focused and customer-centric. What does it really mean? I mean, do I need to know the name of every customer? I mean, if you can, great. But how do you apply these conversations to practicality? How do you really be customer-focused? One way to look at it is through the process of looking at burden. Who is carrying the burden? When you're looking at your processes of your businesses, of what you're doing, what you want to do is your customer to have the least burden. And the best way to achieve that is by making sure that technology carries the maximum burden. Whatever is the rest of the burden left, put it on the employees. And only the residual burden should be put onto the customers. For example, I've seen so many people ask for personal documents like a passport or an ID to be uploaded and fill in a form which requires them to fill in their date of birth and name and nationality. Why? Do we not have OCR scanners that could read? And why do we need the customer to verify if the OCR scanner was accurate? Why couldn't the employees do that? If you would have done that, the customer would have had the burden of only sending or uploading the document, not filling the form. Another way to be customer focused with your process is to look at the shape of your process. Look at the touch points in every task, every process that your customer does. The most efficient process is one which is a V-shaped. I, as a customer, want something, I request it, I get it. If you are going to put multiple touch points in your process and put the burden on the customer, that is not being customer focused. Marry this with the burden and use technology as your friend. So for example, back in the day, when we went to the ATM to withdraw cash, we would have to enter the physical card, put in the PIN, type in the digits, number, amount, withdraw the cash. Today, we can go in, pre-planned, request the money from our app, just walk up to the ATM, withdraw it. That's reducing the number of touch points on the machine. You didn't have shortcuts for quick withdrawals back in the day, but then the banks understood that they need to reduce the touch points. Hence, you could withdraw the 500s and the 1000s and the 2000s at the press of a button without having to manually enter the amount. What I want you all to understand that these four foundational pillars of running a successful business are not independent. You need to have a great purpose if you're going to attract amazing people. It is these amazing people that are going to build great products. And the most efficient processes are the ones which are going to help you stay true to your purpose even when you scale your business. And before I go, I want to talk to some of you who probably walked in today into this room and in the morning thought, my purpose in life is to make more money. How many are these? Please raise your hands who just woke up this morning and said, I am chasing money. My purpose is to make more money. Can you get a raise of hands, please? That's a lot of us, right? I'll tell you a little bit of a story from my childhood. When I was about 8 years old, I would visit the Sharjah Gold Souk with my father to be with him, most probably. But by the time we would cross from the parking lot to the shop, we would cross this cafeteria. And what does an 8-year-old love the most? A little bit of ice cream, popcorn, chocolates. And while I would be crossing that cafe, I would see people hand over coins or money. I mean, we're talking about a time when Apple Pay didn't exist. So there would be actual physical cash being given out to the shop owners, and people would be buying these popcorn. So I understood, okay, that's how you get hold of popcorn and ice creams. And I would be sitting at the shop and seeing these customers coming and buying jewelry from dad's shop and handing out cash. Okay, so if I want something and I want to be happy, I will need money. Cash is king. So I started asking dad, I want some money. And while I was 8-year-old, I would get a coin every now and then to go buy some popcorn or ice cream. But as I grew up, and well, when I say grew up, I mean by the time I was 10, it became, oh, I want some toys. And those toys and games would normally cost about 5 dirhams back then. And I wasn't handed 5 dirhams, I was asked to work. So if I would clean the shop, I would get 1 dirham. So I had to clean the shop for 5 days to have a game for the weekend or have a toy for the weekend. And that was great. But, well, by the time I became 12, 13, typical teenager growing up in Dubai, I wanted to have some fancy clothes. And that wouldn't come for 5 dirhams. So there was no way I would be making that money by earning 1 dirham a day. So I started looking for more work. I became a runner. I would start going to these workshops and getting the rings resized for customers just to make a tip. And very slowly, my father started trusting me with going to the bank for the bank runs and depositing the money. And while I was at the bank, I was wondering, where is this money going? And I was only 13 years back then. And how would I know how much money do I have? What is a bank statement? What is interest? How do you reconcile? What is reconciliation? So for a 13-year-old, I said, okay, if I reconcile the books, can I make 5 dirhams instead of 1? And here you go. It's still cheaper for him, cheap labor. One thing that I was always doing from the time I realized was asking this: why, when, where, how? I was always curious. Curious to know how things work. Curious to know why we do what we do, when we do, where we do, and how we do. And one thing I learned from my life is that if I wanted to make that money, I needed to hustle. I needed to chase an opportunity. And in order to fulfill that opportunity, when it's knocking at my door, to be able to make that money, when it's just out there, I needed skills. I needed that knowledge. I needed that know-how. So, what do? I stopped chasing money. I started chasing skills, knowledge, and opportunities. When you chase opportunities, and you upskill yourselves, you do not need to worry about money. Money will chase you. Money will follow you because it is those opportunities that will lead you to where you want to be. Thank you.